Hey everyone. Sorry about that little glitch there. My sound was not playing, so I had to reboot my StreamYard. Sorry, everybody, if that seemed kind of weird. I do apologize. How is everyone tonight? We have a really great show. I have two wonderful women waiting in the wings. I can't wait to bring them out so that you can all talk to them tonight. And we're going to have a great discussion on Delphi and on Flora. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's Island. I did drop the GoFundMe link for the reward for Flora for you. If you happen to be in here watching. Hey, John, welcome. How are you? Hey, Melissa, Double Rainbows, good to see you. Hey, Jennifer, so sorry about the confusion. We'll get that straightened out, I promise. Hey, Anna, so glad to have you. Gonzo's my bud. I love Gonzo. Hey, SD, how are you guys? Hey, Truth Justice, always good to see you here. How are things over there on Reddit? I hear they're kind of crazy. Hey, little Pookie. So happy to see you guys. Yeah. Meow's here with us tonight. Hey, Cynthia De La Fuente. Oh, you guys are so nice. I don't feel pretty amazing tonight. Today I had a kind of a rough day. So my little sweet grandson is not feeling well. So whenever he's not feeling well, I'm not feeling well. So, but anyway, we'll get through it. Oh, I love Cop Facts. Perry's amazing. Can't say enough about him. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Unsolved Crimes on with us now, Allie. And I'm also going to bring on Meow ZEDong. So everybody, welcome them to the stream, please.
Hi.
Hey,
Good
how are
you guys?
Look at you. How are you guys?
So cute. Doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
I feel like I'm off center here. I wasn't able to really test it beforehand. So
yeah, me neither. So I'm like,
I think that's better though.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Oh man, I like my favorite women.
Oh,
you guys.
We're pretty fond of you too, Kristen.
We have to be careful because we're gonna start laughing and then we'll be in trouble.
Yes, then we won't stop.
Yeah, exactly. So, how are you doing, Meow?
I'm doing good. Sorry, I was so late. I was worried that I was gonna miss it.
Oh, you're not late. You're right on time.
Yeah, I was like way early, so I was like good.
Jennifer, you are not chopped liver. You are prime rib.
Oh.
You are not chopped liver. So, but yeah, you guys, I'm anxious. I'm gonna do our missing person first. There's a missing person in Michigan that I was notified of this afternoon, and I placed his missing person poster up on the community page on my channel. But there's some interesting information because it's a subscriber's son that subscribes to some of the channels on Delphi. So I thought it was really important that we cover him and what's going on with him. So I want to do that first. And his name is Tucker Laws. He's 24 years old and he's missing from Grand Rapids. So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see him and see what's going on here. So give me just a moment to do that. It'll slide us all over, ladies. We'll all be on the side here.
So wait, this he follows the Delphi case, and he recently went missing.
His the parent of him follows the Delphi case, and he recently went missing. So and this is him. His name is Tucker Laws. He's 24 years old, and he was last seen on Tuesday, July 26th. They're asking the public's help in finding him. He was last seen leaving a residence near Plainfield Avenue and 5 Mile Road on Tuesday, July 26th, around 3:15 p.m. Police say friends and family have not heard from him since. He was wearing a gray t-shirt, khaki shorts, tennis shoes, a dark-colored backpack, and he may be a danger to himself, the sheriff's office said in a news release. Anyone with information about him, please call 911, the Kent County Sheriff's Office at 616-632-6100 or Silent Observer at 616-774-2345. So yeah, I feel bad for them. It's a terrible thing to think that your child has gone missing and no one's heard from them. So let's certainly hope that this young man gets found quickly. Everybody knows that those first 48 to 72 hours are crucial in missing person cases. So let's hope that he's just off somewhere and not really hurting himself or that something bad hasn't happened to him as well. So he's on the community page if you guys want to check it out again. I did post it there so everybody could see it. So what's everybody been up to since we talked last on Thursday? Talking to the people in the chat. Is everybody ready for Unsolved tonight and Meow? We got a lot of stuff to share and talk with you guys about. I think it's important that we are all here again together. You guys seemed to enjoy that the last time, the three of us. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. We'll take a look at it afterwards, okay? But yeah, we have been working diligently behind the scenes, gathering information, documents, and things just get more weird every day. Don't they, ladies?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. I can barely keep up, you guys. It's just too much.
If you hear some like weird noises, it's a Saturday. Like my apartment's busy, so.
Weird noises? Like,
yeah, no, they're sorry. I had to mute myself.
Do you have a ghost in your house?
No, I live in an apartment. I have a lot of people going through the halls right now because it's a Saturday.
Everybody's going out, and Meow's here with us.
Yeah, like they're really loud. I'm like just a loser on here.
No, so. You are not. No, you're not.
At all.
You are so smart. Mm-hmm. So we're lucky to have you. So who wants to talk about stuff first? Meow, do you want to talk about what we found out about the Delphi Creek? Deer Creek?
Right.
Do you want to talk about Deer Creek?
Yeah, I can. I don't know if you want me to. I guess I'm like, okay, I can pull things up. I don't know how to do that.
No, that's totally fine. I just want to preface it. So guys, we were talking a little bit about, some of the stuff that Delphi, we know about Delphi or think that we know about Delphi and what happened that day. We've talked at length about that for the last couple of weeks and how maybe what we think we know isn't actually what's going on here, and that there might be some other things at play. Well, one of the things that Meow found that I think needs to be out there loud and clear is the condition of Deer Creek on the 13th of February, 2017. This is extremely important information. If you guys have questions, please make sure you answer, but she's going to try and explain it to you.
Okay,
Take it away, my dear.
This is like my moment. I've like spent so much time researching.
This is your moment in time.
This is my moment. Like, I just want to say, like, before Flora, I learned everything about like the waterways into the Wabash, like every single tributary, what in like emerging wetland is, which is apparently what like Deer Creek is on. So that's just like a little side bit. But so anyways, I had been, you can get, should I put it in the chat? Like there's like a link, but
you can put the link in the chat if you want. And you can also, if you need to share your screen, you should be able to.
Yeah, 1 second.
Just make sure you're not sharing anything inappropriate.
Back of my screen. Yeah, I'm totally not like, let me just make sure I have all that. But what I can at least clarify, just like verbally off the dome, but when around like 12 to 3 o'clock, they're taking live data from the USGS drainage site, which is a little bit upstream. So this, I think, is like a little bit of good perspective. So it's going to be just like a little bit upstream from where they are believed to be found, right north of the cemetery or south of the cemetery. So at that point is where they're believed to be, like kind of near the creek bed. So I know that we have all come to the conclusion that they've crossed the creek over on the other side. And I totally accepted that until like I've like established that there's a little bit more context. And maybe when Doug Carter says, like he really knew the area, it really gave me some context. Like, he really knows that area. So I found out that the creek, throughout the time that the girls were missing, so from 3 p.m. to when they were found at like 12, the creek was around 700. It was moving at 700 to 500 square feet or cubic feet per second. So that's a fast moving creek. Like this is like recommended for like if you're doing extreme sports like whitewater rafting. That's like the setting that would be done in. But the reason was,
how deep was it?
And it was the entire time. It was 3.8 feet when they went missing. So around 3 o'clock, February 13th. And then by noon, February 14th, it had dropped to 3.2 feet in depth. So we're working with like a pretty high creek. I feel like that would be like maybe up to my chest. I'm small.
It depends on your size because I looked it up, but they consider that waist to waist water. And I'm assuming it's an adult that they're talking about, a waist. So a 13 or 14-year-old's not an adult. I would say that it was probably closer to their chest high. I mean, that's just a thought. I mean, we don't have it, we can't put that in as fact, but I mean, you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah. I mean, like it's February. It's like, okay, so was the plan to go through that creek? Was that really the plan? Was that planned at all? Did they run? Like, I just feel like there's so many other alternatives here. And it's like so frustrating because I know all of the theories revolve around them going to the creek. And I just like, it was frustrating because obviously I only know this, I guess, maybe because like I know that they do collect water data because of the flooding. Like they have flooding. Everyone knows Indiana, unfortunate weather. And this is one of those situations. But they collect live data. We have all of that. We don't have to be guessing.
Right, exactly. That's what I thought was so intriguing about what you found, was that this has never really been talked about factually. We've even heard that about the weather. You can go out and find out exactly what the weather was the day of February 13th, 2017. There's no guessing about how warm it was. I've heard anything from 40 degrees up to 57 degrees over 5 years. And that's just not right. All you have to do is go to the Weather Channel, put in the date and the city, and it's going to tell you exactly what everything was at sunrise to dusk to overnight.
Yeah.
And also, like, okay, I just noticed that, like, someone also mentioned that, like, was talking, like, I don't know, I'm a Reddit girl, so, like, I'm on Reddit a lot, I don't know. And so, someone was talking about, like, where, like, the photos were taken. I was just like, oh, well, we just, like, have to, like, put ourselves into the perspective. Like, we shouldn't even really be fighting about that. But, like, you can see, because it's the evening, you can see which side's east and which side's west. And so you can tell when the camera's, like, facing directly into the sun, if that makes sense.
Right.
So we kind of get a good shadow here. So all of these things we can be deducing. So I just don't really participate in Delphi as much as Flora, but I totally got into Flora because of Delphi.
So can you explain to us what was going on with the FEMA grant? What happened with how they changed all of this in 2017?
Yes, so this happened just in like 2017. A lot happened in 2017. So there was a lot of federal money coming in to Delphi, especially because Delphi, actually, I do have this. One second, let me just like expand my screen so I'm not being inappropriate. And how do I share it? Oh my God, this is going to be so bad if I screw up.
There's a little icon at the bottom and it says share, I guess. I've never done that either, so I might be wrong.
Right. Okay. Just making sure. Oh, okay. So there is a way you can see this, but right now, what I'm saying is that they basically, yeah, okay, I can share my screen. They basically eroded the creek further out. So it's called a two-stage ditch. And this is part of their whole USGS watershed plan with Carroll County. Several counties are involved in this, but right where Deer Creek kind of tributes to the Wabash River, it's really prone to flooding. And I think it might have to do with how snaky it is. It causes a lot of turbulence in the water, but it also causes flooding because you can see that Delphi, relative to the rest of Indiana, it's like at a lower elevation. It's below sea level. And so the rest, when it floods. Like Delphi, like, I mean, it sucks for them. I mean, it must really be bad. And you can see that in 2007. And I think before that, like 2001. That was like, I'm not sure about that, but I know that it's very bad when it occurs. And oh man.
They basically widened the creek and then they lowered the level, right? So that it would be not as deep.
I'm just not even gonna look for it. But basically, yes, what they've done is they've widened the creek out. So that's not gonna be prone to flooding. So as much. So like when the snow starts to melt, like in February, the warmest day of February is going to cause the most runoff from the water. And if that happens all at once, and there's been enough precipitation that winter, it can start flooding pretty fast because this is also a wetland. So like it's not going anywhere. So that's another thing. So like it can cause, when it just like is this narrow, so it's like a cup or whatever, or you put it on like a bowl, it takes like longer for that like water to overflow. And so what they decided they needed to do was make it a little wider because it literally kept happening every year. And okay, this is like a little bit of I'm almost done. But
you're fine.
No, it's very interesting.
They got so much money. Like they got $22 million grant twice. They asked for it twice. I'm not sure if like after a point the feds are like, what are you doing about it? Like, what are you fixing it? They bought an opera house, like with their grant money. So that wasn't what they were going for. They were hoping like a little bit of an engineering fix on that. But no, Delphi gets really badly flooded, and it's like in a bowl. It's kind of lower down. And so when it does flood, it goes straight into Delphi. And that's why so many homes were ruined. And in fact, many of the homes that are on the south side of the creek, they're basically abandoned, or they can't be lived in. Like many of them were foreclosed upon because people couldn't fix it. And so, and because they needed it for the like flood inundation path, they just like cut off like some of the homes that were like on that cliff.
So like if you've got all these homes that are flooding every year, you know, that's a big problem. And so they've asked for grant money to fix it over time, and they finally got around to doing it in 2017. But they also decided they wanted to redo the Opera House.
Yeah. Well, that one, I don't know why. I cannot explain that.
So I think they're wanting to use the Opera House as a community center place where they could have concerts and theater productions and things. I think I read about that. The McCains were helpful in getting some of that money raised, but I also know that there were grants written for to do that, because that was one of the big things that Shane Evans pushed for in the city. The mayor, the young mayor, was to redo that whole center section of the town square. Basically, they wanted to redo the facade of all the buildings, update everything. I don't think the Opera House was flooding. I don't think it was, but I definitely think that the houses were.
I don't know how well their tourism is.
So I don't know. Yeah, Jennifer, I don't think anybody's talking much. Maybe that's why. It's moving very slowly from what I see. But I thought that was quite interesting, because when you guys stop and think about a 3.5 foot body of water, that's a lot of water, even when you're just standing still, when it's standing still. But when you add the movement that Meow's talking about, it's crazy. I don't know. It's a
lot for you to like deal with as like at my size. Like I always fall when it in like the ocean or whatever. Like I'm like a klutz in those sort of situations. I hate water. Like I don't like going in it. It's just not fun for me. So I can just like, it just seems like an odd choice. That's just to me. And like, it seems like pretty hazardous, because not only that, but a 4-year-old in like 2019, like got swept away by that. It's not a safe river when it like swells.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's definitely not. It's that's why I hate to say this, that's why they call it a creek. It's not truly a river. It's a creek because it fluctuates so much in its depth. But what I want you to explain is the runoff and the sandbar and how the sandbar moves.
Right.
And all of that, because that I found compelling, because everybody has talked about for 5 years that these girls went across this creek at this one point because the sandbar's there. And I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show my screen. Like, okay, you can't judge how many tabs I have open. Like that has to be like off the.
I have all kinds of tabs open all the time.
Yeah,
like they're wild.
I have to close them for my live, or my stream would be so slow, nothing would move.
Is there like a faster button for the share? Okay. We might have some like. Oops.
Is it a big document? It's pretty long, right?
No, I just have so many screens open. Like I figure it out, because like I don't know.
Yeah.
When you click on it, does it open up the share?
Yeah.
Okay.
Share screen. Don't show. Okay.
And then you want to pick which one, if you have multiple screens, which, because I have multiple screens.
I have to Oh my God, I have to open my system preferences. I don't know what's going on. In order to share my screen. Oh, because it's recording.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Do you want to go, like, Allie? We can just circle back.
Okay, that's fine. Allie, go ahead.
Yay. Did you
Allie's-
get the PowerPoint slides I sent you, Kristen?
I did.
All right.
Do you want me to show it?
That would probably be best. I don't want to like blow
I will
up
show it.
I have to quit and reopen, so I'm
fine.
fully. If you want me to do that.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll be back. Bye.
Okay, so this is Allie's PowerPoint. Let me see how I make this full screen. What am I doing here? There we go. So people can see it, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm just going to kind of bring up some stuff on my end. So bear with me here. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the data, which I know I've covered in my most recent videos. I have about 4 of them that go into some pretty detailed information taken from data that was pulled from various sources. So the first set of data has been pulled from the Indiana State Mortality Fire Statistics, which is available through the state website. I also had looked into the CDC Wonder database and statistics pulled within a time frame for the U.S. Fire Administration. So right now, what we're looking at on this first slide is information taken from the CDC, or Center of Disease Control's Wonder database. And we pulled in the 2016 to 2017 homicide records for females aged 1 to 14. And what is found out here is that there are 1 out of 111,000 female homicides aged 1 to 14 that occur per year for the U.S. average. And this breaks out the number of deaths per region within the United States, as well as gives information on the population and then the rate for each region in terms of the number of deaths. So we then look and see that in terms of Carroll County, we take 1 murder out of 111,000, which is the average of number of homicides per year for females. And we then divide that by the total population of females in Carroll County, which is 1,692 girls. So based off of this data, we can see that there is 1 death per 65.6 years that's expected in Carroll County for that age group 1 to 14. Now, in Carroll County, we actually had 6 girls that were murdered within a 3-month span. So instead of 1 death every 65.6 years, it's actually 6 girls every 393 years of female child homicides in Carroll County, while 0 males had occurred, according to these statistics. So basically, that goes to tell us that the statistics are way out of the water of where they should be. So we can go to the next slide, Kristen.
Okay.
And so another thing that, we'll keep it here for now. I'll talk about this slide momentarily, but I did want to add, in addition to the prior slide that we were looking at on the CDC data, another thing is that 4 of the 6 Carroll County girls that were murdered in 3 months between November 21st of 2016 and February 17th of 2017 were killed in a mass murder arson. So we had 4 of the 6 girls killed within a 3-month span, and 4 of those girls were deemed mass murder by arson. So the method of the 4 Flora girls murder is actually a specific type of homicidal behavior, because since 2016, 15 girls have died in 6 county fires when only 1 death would have been expected. So we have 15 times more the number of female children that are dying in comparison to that projection of 1 per year. So what we see by this data is that it strongly indicates that the 4 Flora girls homicide was the beginning of a serial femicide trend that's still going on. And SD, I saw your note earlier about the fire in Lafayette, and I want you to know that is something I'm going to be covering next, because that fire, or what could have potentially resulted from that fire, fits in nicely to that pattern that we're looking at here. So we'll be talking about that more.
And she's talking
here,
about the fire. She's talking about the fire in Lafayette where the children were saved by the pizza delivery guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That fire is suspicious in our minds, just so you guys know. It's very, very suspicious. So, and she'll explain why when she goes into that later.
Wait, let me in on that.
Yeah, there's too much to say right now on that, but we'll get to it. That's my next focus.
So, yeah, she will put that in her next video.
So we see, based off of the data that we saw prior, that the 4 Flora girls homicide, obviously, it's indicative of the start of a serial femicidal trend that is still going on. And the reason why I say that, we're going to explore further. But in 2022, now I know there's been some coverage on this from the 3 of us. We had the female-dominated fire death trend that included the Indiana State Trooper, Stephanie Thompson, and her daughter. You guys remember Stephanie Thompson? The fire is still unruled. We don't know the cause of it. Stephanie's husband was a judge, very suspicious. And because the Delphi girls were female and they matched the demographics of the 15 girls who have died in 6 county fires, there's ample reason for us all to believe one person or group is targeting these girls. And we have to focus on the overall victimology. What do they have in common? So the algorithm of the killer is the name of the video that I posted. It's over an hour, goes into some very detailed information, a recap of the statistics we're covering now, but also more on the victimology, which I'm going to cover briefly with you guys.
All your statistics. I love when you do it.
I've had help.
So good.
There's no way I can do this on my own. Because, like I said, there's so much. But I work in data. I deal with this stuff every day.
Yeah, I can tell that. I'm just like, oh my God.
So I'm sorry.
Listening to her explain the data and the statistics is impressive.
Oh, thank
Not
you.
to mention the hours it takes to collect the data and get the information, you know?
Yes, it's definitely a lot. But, the thing is it's not hard to do. I think a lot of times people think math, oh, this is tough. I don't even want to try to understand what's going on here. But really, you're talking about simple addition and subtraction. It's just being able to find where that data exists and where to pull it from, and putting it together in a way that's easily understandable. So now, like I said, what the slide shows us here is that we have 6 areas of Indiana that are close in proximity to Carroll County. We have Carroll, White, Clinton, Cass, Howard, and Miami County. And these areas show a large percentage of fire deaths in comparison to other counties that underlie within the remainder of Indiana. we're seeing a very suspicious trend across these 6 counties primarily. So
And
let's
for
go to the next slide.
everyone's understanding, the cities that fall in these counties that you may be aware of are Kokomo,
Flora.
sorry,
Kokomo is
Peru,
crazy. Their crimes are nuts.
Flora,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Flora, Logansport,
Nuts.
Delphi, Monticello. These are some of the
Yeah.
towns.
Monticello's nicer, I think. I don't know. It's like around the lake, and it doesn't flood as much, right? That's how I know.
Yeah, it's more higher end. Although we do know, I guess we can we say where the, I guess we probably shouldn't say that we know where one of the big people in the state lives. Probably shouldn't say that. Not on the live anyway.
Oh no. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be the result of their house catching on fire.
No, I wouldn't either. So I'm not going to mention that. I mean, yeah, we won't go there.
Yeah. So you can go to the next slide when you're ready. So now what you were looking at here is the number of fire deaths from 2016 to 2022. Before we were looking, and we'll go into this a little bit further, I've taken some time frames that are a bit different across each of these data pools. So in this particular case, 2016 to March 31st, 2022, and we are looking at the number of expected fire deaths per each of these 6 counties. And column B shows us observed number of fire deaths across county, with Cass County actually leading the pack with the highest number of fire deaths. And then we see the expected child fire deaths outlined in column C, and then I included the observed child fire deaths within column D. So column D is actually showing you guys how many fire deaths have occurred throughout this time period by each county. So what we see, breaking it down even further, we then look at the number of girls and boys versus women and men that died within each of these counties. So we see that we had 15 little girls lose their lives across each county from 2016 to 2022 versus only 4 boys. Okay, now traditionally, the ratio should only be 1-to-1. But what we're actually seeing is that the girl to boy ratio in terms of fire deaths is not 1-to-1. It's 3.75 to 1. It's 3 times higher than where we should be. So this information is very important because a lot of these deaths by fire have either been ruled as accidental. There was one where 3 little children died in Kokomo, where their fire was deemed death by child. Apparently, one of the children started the fire. And there was also another instance where the fire chief stated that the house fire was due to lightning. And for those of you that don't know, yes, right? You're right.
Yeah, I was like, okay. Or that looks bad that you printed that. Like, that just looks like you know that's a lie.
That's right. You guys would honestly have an easier time winning Indiana State Lottery than you would having a house burned down due to a lightning.
And that's happened multiple times.
It just doesn't happen. It is so rare, and especially here.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. So, you know, when you don't have the answers and you're seeing accidental or unresolved, there's a good question as to whether or not there is some sort of arsonist that is targeting female children. And you guys, this isn't my opinion. Like, this is the data. I there has to be a pattern behind it. So we continue on. I wanted to show you guys the next slide here, which outlines the victims. I've shown this across each of my videos. So you guys that watch those videos have already probably seen it before. But like I said, if we have new people joining, I want you guys to see just how many people have died here. And these are children. I'm not
These
even
are
including
15 little girls, all right
15 little
here.
girls.
15 little girls. And you know,
yeah.
Maya was 17 years old, but she was still a young girl. She was still in high school. She was a junior in high school. And yeah, it's appalling. Hey,
Yeah.
Captain, welcome. How are you? Good to have you with us tonight. Go ahead, my dear.
Yeah. So, you know, I did not include Abby and Livy within this data set because we are looking specifically at child fire deaths. So this is not inclusive of any other type of homicides that would have occurred across this age group from 0 to 17 years. But you can see, you know, it started off with Flora, and the Flora girls were actually the last of the 4 Flora Bringhurst girls that kind of ended that trend within the Flora Bringhurst area. But then we're seeing sort of an evolution that's occurring across these other remaining 5 counties. So we'll go to the next. Actually, we might want to keep it on the victim slide.
Things that I noticed about this pattern is there were no deaths in 2019 and there were no deaths in 2020. And I thought that was interesting. An interesting observation when you look at the dates of the deaths of these 15 female children. You know, we had these in 16, we had these in 17, we had all of these in 18, nothing in 19, nothing in 20, and then we have 21, 22.
Wait,
well, you know,
have you looked into like overall child deaths? Like, is that another thing, or is that not as like high? Like, what does it look like on the other side? Like, what are we, like, you know what I mean?
Overall,
like, have we not seen this? Like, have we seen this elevation elsewhere, or no? I don't know.
Are you talking like in murders or in traumatic
Yeah,
deaths?
is it like all murders, or is it just arson? Or like, I don't know which one we're talking about.
We're talking about arson here.
Because when I pull the information in from the CDC Wonder database, it actually pulls out all homicides. So you can't, unlike the Indiana state fire mortality records and the US Fire Administration data, you don't have the ability via the CDC Wonder database to parse out like fire from homicide. So that data set shows us all of the homicide related activity. But in terms of looking at Indiana only and total number of fire deaths, I can do that back to, I believe
That's a good point.
Isn't that a good point?
That's what I honestly thought first. I immediately was like, where's the
perpetrator? What's going on? Why not 19? Why not 20?
Maybe he moved to a different state. Because
very interesting.
You know, under evaluation or. But these
guys
don't stop.
If the perpetrator, like, I think he knows these people from jail, because a lot of them have like served time for like maybe a small amount of time, maybe not all of them, but like I that's what I had noticed with, at least I guess going back a few years, that a few of them had served time before, so that could be a mutual way that they know the victims. Or I know with Flora that the dad had, or not the dad, the grandfather had served time. So that was one thing. And then the Heights, I think. So like many children already, but that might be just.
Yeah, it's very.
Except, no, not the Thompsons. I'm not defaming anyone right now. Like, they obviously don't have a
No, right, exactly. We understand that. No, we're not throwing anybody. We're not
But she
throwing
was
anybody.
also she had polygraphed a lot of people between 2017 and 2018.
Oops.
And
Did you not want me to
like
go to the next slide?
she knew a lot of things. And also I was watching her do her like whole thing about what she does with her polygraph. She also interviews everyone who's like in it to join the police force, because if you don't pass the polygraph, then you don't get considered. So anyway, some of them might have something shady.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. She was very active in all areas of this area. She was, and what I mean by that is topographically. She was working with when she talks on the video that I shared the other night, and I can't get my mouse to do what I want it to. Doggone it. Hate it when it decides to do its own thing.
Yeah.
When I shared the Stephanie video that she did with the ISP Roadshow, when she talks about her job and what she was doing for the ISP when she was doing the polygraphing. And she talks about that the cities, she was doing more work for the individual cities than she was doing for the ISP most of the time. And I thought that was quite interesting, that the sheriffs and the city police were contacting her to do polygraphs.
Well, there's 6 of them in this state. Like, that's not
Right.
many.
That's not very many for that
like,
state. And to stop and think about, how many polygraphs they're doing,
and how long
she
they
talked
take.
about she did 1,000 in her first year as a polygrapher, which she also said that the polygraph school she went to in Pennsylvania for only law enforcement personnel, that she had graduated with people that 4 years later still hadn't hit 1,000 polygraphs.
I just want to mention she's super accomplished in her field. Like she was like really like she was the shit. Like the governor had asked her to like do his own security. Like I don't know. Like she was known like for being like
she had a very good solid reputation. She was very well respected. Everyone in the community knew her, knew her husband. The mayor of Monticello talked about how everyone was just absolutely shaken by her death because she was kind. She was a coach at the high school level. She was active in her girls' lives. The woman was just a superwoman in my opinion.
She would need a security clearance for that kind of position, I feel like. So
yeah, she was definitely on the fast track going upward, I think, in the ISP. She definitely could have probably gone anywhere, but she said she really liked doing the polygraphing, that was like a niche that she found that she loved.
I mean, so. I get it. Like, I was like, I want to make a video on this. And then I was like, maybe it wouldn't be like cool, but like, I wanted to like explain what she like about the polygraphing. I don't know. She had like some cool points, like that you really can't beat a polygraph. And I was like, anyway, she explains it.
So she was the first to collect touch DNA for the Indiana State Police. See, she was in the crime lab first as a crime scene investigator. I mean, not first. She obviously was she was a patrolman, or not a patrolman, but she was on the road. She was on the highway, ISP first. But then she went to crime scene collection. And that's interesting that she was the first one to get touch DNA.
I wonder if she was like an investigator before she was a polygrapher. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say she had to have been a terrible loss, truth, justice, for the ISP, because she had so much experience in different areas. It's hard to lose that, not to mention what her family lost. Her daughter, her other remaining daughter, and her husband you know,
She probably
losing her.
polygraphed people for this case, like Delphi, not just Flora. But I know.
Oh,
that
I
she did
believe that she
Flora.
Delphied. I believe that she polygraphed for Delphi. I mean, there are only 6 in the state, so yeah, you know, she had to have. She was based out of Lafayette, the Lafayette
and
Post.
also they
so
admitted to going to, or Joshua,
Yeah.
he admitted to going
Hey, Michelle,
to
welcome. We're so glad you're here. I'm glad you made it with us. It's always good to have you. Our honorable CSI is in the house. Go ahead, Allie. You can finish.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I just wanted to leave the victim list up while we talk about this next piece of info, which was taken from the CDC database as well, along with the U.S. Fire Administration records. So we found that 1 out of 350 houses have some type of fire each year. So that's 8 per 1,000 fires, or 1 out of 125 causes of death. So when you take 350 times 125, we see that 1 out of 43,750 houses will have a fire and a death associated each year. So that's 1 out of 43,750. And these numbers, you've seen them in prior slides. We can also source the data sets for you to go back to and research further if you don't trust my judgment here. So I'm not going to bore you with the math details anymore, but just know 1 out of 43,750 houses will have a fire-related death due to that fire each year. So Becky Patty, Libby's grandmother, did an appraisal at the Flora house for the lender of which she worked for 2 months before the fire that killed the 4 Flora girls. Now, 3 months after that fire, Becky's granddaughter, who lived with her, was murdered. Now, before people go and start pointing fingers, we don't want that. I feel like we need to spell it out. Patty German and the Williams families are as much of the victims as the family of the 4 Flora girls. There are no family members that were involved in any of the murders. Kelsey is not responsible. I do not believe that. Nobody is responsible. Galen is not responsible. These poor people have been through more than enough. And I am not about to say that any of them are responsible. They are victims, and they deserve our utmost sympathy and respect here. So I'm going to get off of my soapbox. It just really fires me up, you guys, because I hate when people say that. I hate hearing that
You and me
about
both.
These victims.
You and me both.
They don't deserve
And somebody
it.
asked the question, why was the lender asking for an appraisal? Little Pookie, from what I understand, there was a loan being applied for on the property. So I would assume that would be by the owners.
Mm-hmm.
So the owners were asking to have a loan on the property for some reason, and lenders are the ones typically who ask for appraisals.
Yeah. So we can go to the next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
So the CDC Wonder information, again, we also pulled that in through figure 5 that's represented here. And this is showing us the number of deaths per 1,000 that are reported home fires by year and occupancy. And this outlines data from 1980 to 2020. So what we see by this chart is that the probability that Libby or Abby would have been murdered was 1 out of 111,000 per year. And that was also taken from an earlier slide, which shows you how that math was incorporated. So equally important for us to remember here is that Libby and Abby were murdered 2 weeks after the ruling that the Flora fire was a quadruple death, arson, murder. Only 2 weeks later, after that ruling was made. It was like, here we have.
It's another one of those coincidences that people don't want to talk about.
Right. And is it a coincidence? We can go to the next slide now. So I incorporated, we'll let everybody decide the answer to that question. But
exactly. We're just giving the information. So,
yeah.
you know, everybody's going to be like tomorrow. Kristen had on last night. They were talking about how this was this, and you can just hear it now.
Oh, I know, because as you've mentioned, people do not want to connect these two cases. They want to keep Delphi separate from Flora, but I'm sorry, honeys, the data speaks, and I'm the deliverer of it. I don't know how we can not distinguish that pattern, that something is off. So I understand people have opinions, but the numbers are what they are.
I don't know why, but there's certain people that come to my chat and also come and comment on my stuff. And whenever I talk about Delphi or Flora in the same breath, they always post to me, please don't connect these two cases. I don't understand that. And if they are out there listening, I would really like an explanation as to if the evidence points at connections, you cannot turn your head away from those connections. And, you know, people are like, well, law enforcement has said they're not connected. Law enforcement has told us a lot. They told us there was no catfishing and there was no social media involved in Delphi. And now look where we are. So we have to be careful with that as well, with saying that as well, because especially in Flora, where we know that there is some major corruption that has taken place regarding this case.
Yeah. And these are just a couple of news reports I pulled in to show you guys that 2-week differential in terms of the Flora quadruple murder by arson, and then also the occurrence of Abby and Libby's discovery. So one of the things while you keep that up, Kristen, is I really think that we need to consider the timing of the Delphi murders and the motive. You know, the probability of Libby and Abby's murder, as I had mentioned, was 1 out of 111,000 girls per year. And we know that there are 52 weeks in a given year. So the probability of Libby or Abby being murdered 2 weeks after the Flora arson announcement was 1 out of 111,000 per year. And we see, you know, the gender and the age of the victims, the house fire and fatal fire probability numbers, the probability of the girls' age being 1 to 14 being murdered, and the 15 girls that have died in fires since 2016 all point a connection between the Flora and Delphi murders. Now, given our overwhelming facts and statistical evidence, the question we need to be asking ourselves is, why is there a tip line that only takes tips about the 2 girls murdered in Delphi? We looked at some information that actually outlines the phone numbers across each of those 2 cases, and they're both different. There's no connection. I mean, we had Carter going on to Dr. Phil, and like I mentioned before, when he's being asked the question about what the public needs to know, there was no mention about Flora in response to that outside of his answer related to Delphi. So we can go to the next slide.
I think that's extremely important to know what you just said. I mean, it is so telling, and you cannot dispel what's happening, what's right in front of us. You cannot just look away and pretend that you don't see it or that it doesn't happen, or those things are not being done, because I've said it all along, where is the disconnect between how much money is going into solving Delphi? Where's the money that's going to solve Flora? Because
I
they're both
totally.
housed in the same place. The same people are working the cases. These aren't separate cases when it comes to detectives. The same
I just
detectives.
wonder, why does he hate women or girls, little girls? That's weird
Something's Yeah,
psychology.
there's definitely, um there's definitely something to that for sure. Sorry, Allie, I'm my
It's
earpiece is trying to come out of
okay.
my ear, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it in. So there you go.
Well, no worries. Meow, in answering your question, I think investigating these numbers and the patterns of the deaths and looking at the victimologies, and I talked about this within that algorithm video. That was one of my more recent videos as to why he is killing the girls he is. One of the things I can say kind of briefly on that is that I don't think he's targeting the girls. Okay, now that sounds weird, right? The girls were the victims, but the reasons why they were killed, in my opinion, I'm not saying I'm right on this, the reasons why they were killed goes deeper, and it feeds into a hate-driven crime, which is, given these types of statistical patterns, which have been verified, we have multiple victims that have relatives, including Libby, the 4 Flora girls, and the Rossville girls that were killed. There were 2 of them that have gay family members. We also have those victims that are from families that might have a history of drug use or other types of traits or characteristics that may be deemed less appropriate from this killer's psychopathic perspective. And so what happens is, in order to bring the families hurt that are committing those less desirable characteristics or upholding them, whatever it may be, he is targeting these children. Why females? It's probably so that they can't reproduce later and produce more children that fit undesirable characteristics. It's very weird. Some people may not agree with this, but the data is what I am using to drive this revelation. So, might be weird, but if you're thinking from the perspective of a psychopathic, mass murdering, femicidal arsonist, that's his
That's a lot. That's a lot to throw out there.
But it's just crazy how you come to we both come from different angles, so hard, but we both kind of make the same. We both notice the same things.
Yes, and that's why we work so well together. All of us is we are all uncovering certain aspects of these cases that further exemplify what is truly happening. And it's harder to deny it after you see these facts.
Yeah.
So
nobody wants to believe that there's somebody out there killing all of these children because they believe they're doing it in the name of God, or because they, for some reason, their religion tells them, or their religious belief tells them, that their family members are committing horrific sins that need to be.
That's legally terrorism.
I mean,
when you
to
start
me, that's
putting
just
religion down to kill people.
It's really hard to look at that. But when you guys are examining a case and you're looking at it, victimology is absolutely important.
Yeah.
And you have to look at what the victims may have in common, and what, especially when you're looking at this overall picture of all these fire deaths of these children. It's kind of like, well, what would be a common denominator between all of them? And this is what the data is showing that's being uncovered. is
Yeah.
what she's explaining. Now, that's up to you guys to take the information that you're being given and decide for yourselves on whether or not it can fit for you or not. This is
Right.
just information, but it is information that we feel the public is not aware of. We don't feel the public knows half of what's going on right under its nose. Michelle, thank you so much for your super chat. You are so kind. I appreciate it very much. But go ahead. Sorry, Allie, I didn't mean to
No worries.
jump in there.
No, I understand, especially for Michelle. Michelle does great things for us.
She does.
Yeah. So one of those, to piggyback off from what you were saying, Kristen, is, we talked about Carter going on Dr. Phil in response to the Delphi crime, which obviously amassed a huge public following, increasing their reward to $325,000, while Flora sat at 5 for quite some time.
Let me just bring up the social media point, because they took the girls' phones. They took their phones and their iPads from the Flora house. And so I never really thought about that. Some people bring it up on my sub, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good point, because I forgot, and they kept it for safekeeping. They didn't go into what was on that or if anything was on it, but they also omitted that part. So I don't know. But yeah, it's another connection. Oh, and another connection. Sorry, just last thing. But with Delphi, and I'm not saying that I believe that they're connected. I just I never have a theory. I always just rule theories out. So it just is more of I used to think Klein, but no, not I don't anymore. I'm one of those people who's ruled it out. So full disclosure. But when it comes to Delphi, there was actually a fire that happened around the time that the girls went missing. And that's why there was, I guess maybe the firefighters were delayed or whatever. I know that they called them on the audio, you can hear it, to meet to let's go, we have a missing person. And they were talking about a fire. I don't think they ever met, because she kept calling and giving the call time, and it was later and later, and they just didn't seem to meet up. But that really can easily overwhelm fire station if there's an ongoing fire. So I don't really know anything about that fire. I remember it was the Wolcott area. It was he said it weird, but it was the Wolcott area.
Meow, here's a question for you on the screen from Truth.
Oh, sorry. Galen, I'm not sure. I only know that Josh Ayres was polygraphed. He gave that information up voluntarily, honestly. If he didn't fight this loss, this wrongful death thing, this wouldn't have come out, but he did. So his choice, not mine. Don't arson my home. And honestly, yeah, he took a polygraph, and that's a big deal, as we know from the Monticello case. And that means that you're pretty you should be looking at them as a suspect in that case. That's what at least what
yes,
Thompson said.
She says whenever they polygraph, it's for suspects. They don't just polygraph. They're looking for somebody that knows something about.
Yeah, she said
crime.
It's the investigator should have a pretty good idea of this should be the guy you think who did it, and I'll tell you that.
Now, with that being said, before everybody jumps onto the German family, let me tell you, they also use them to rule out family members when it's somebody in a family that is murdered. They look at the family members and the close relatives first in those crimes, and they usually polygraph them if they're willing to be polygraphed.
Yeah, so, Galen might have been polygraphed. I don't know.
Yeah. So
I actually don't really
I'm
know that
assuming
much
she
about the
probably was,
family.
but there's a question about who actually owned the house. Was there a landlord? I don't know if they're not, maybe they're new to the case, but do you want to just tell them real quick?
Oh, there was a landlord. Yeah. So like I hate him.
Yeah,
So
no, the landlord was Josh
sorry, I'm
Ayers and
opinionated
Troy
sometimes, but
Helderman.
like
There actually
no, I
are
just hate him as a
two.
person. Like I don't even
Yeah,
like even if he didn't do that. Like I still
yeah.
hate him.
There was two landlords, Josh Ayers and Troy Helderman, and they do business as, what's the name of their company again?
They're a hardware store, and then they're also another store that makes heating, ventilation, and cooling.
Climate tech.
Climatech. But
And
what's
that
the name of
also
the
caught on
holding?
fire.
What's the holding company that they rent under? It's
Birch Tree Holdings.
thank you, Birch Tree
And now they have
Holdings.
JTM Management or something.
Yeah.
That's with I named McIntosh.
So that's the answer to those questions.
Yeah, and
Birch Tree Holding, yeah.
yeah.
He also
So,
owns like half the property in Flora. So
yeah. I just want to make sure that people are aware that we don't victim bash here, family bash, or blame. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. So Allie, go ahead and you can
Yeah.
finish talking about
I was
Doug.
going to add to what you said, Kristen, that prior to Troy Helderman and Joshua Ayers taking over as landlords for that Flora property, the home was actually owned by Joshua's parents for, I want to say, about 30 years prior to it being handed over in that transaction through Birch Tree. So, yeah, kind of interesting history. But I was just going to say, in regards to this last slide, and Kristen, if you could move to the next slide, please. Not the one that gives you the video. But
Yes,
slide
I've
number
seen
9.
Yes, Paris, I have seen pictures of all of these people.
Yeah.
All you have to do is go out and Google them. You can find them.
or just come to my sub.
Yeah.
Number 9 for now, Kristen. Sorry.
I'll talk
I'm
your
sorry.
ear off about it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So we'll go back to 8 in a minute, but I wanted everybody to kind of see this and we'll go into that. So as I'm just explaining this, just wanted to let you guys know. So knowing what we've talked about with Flora and Carter's representation and coverage of Delphi, Carter also states that we don't believe the person who set the Flora fire intended to kill those little girls. So we can go back to slide 8 and play from the portion in the video that I referenced for you. And this is him saying that very thing.
Do you believe him? Just curious.
No, I think he's full of crap. And I'm going to take some heat for saying that, I'm sure, because I know everybody loves Carter, but he's a politician. And
he's so running for governor. Oh my God. That's one thing I'll put money on. Predict it. Like I called it now. He's running for like that or vice president or something.
Okay, so this is going to be then on YouTube, right?
Yeah. I tried to get to the actual clip, so I knew I had it in my
script though, like same script. And also he did said the same thing about like he it's just like has been taken out as harsher, I think, on the family.
I mean, I know. Flora. Yeah, I mean, I think that he really does care about the girls. I know that he is a very religious person who has been very beaten up by what he's been exposed to or has dealt with. But what bothers me about his involvement with this is that it's almost been 6 years. And if you know that these patterns exist, if you know that these connections exist, and he knows more than I do, he knows more than any of us do. They've had people working on this, they've had involvement with the FBI, but to say that the fire wasn't deliberately set in Flora and then turn around and have the ISP then say that it was deemed as arson, who would commit an arson at 3:30 a.m., knowing that those little girls are asleep, if that fire wasn't intended to kill them? And so I just don't think he's being honest with us. I don't think he is. He's told us the same thing about, oh, well, there's things I wish I could tell you, and maybe one day I will. And that's his default to Delphi and Flora.
Oh,
and I'm just like,
sorry.
I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't
There's
mean to
also
click on
enough
it.
abandoned houses. You can go to an abandoned house and set arson. No, like, I'm not saying that that's okay. Like, okay, it's like a harm reduction. Like, you could do it to like a place that's not occupied, but it's not because of like lack of availability. They're choosing this house. You know what I mean?
And all these arson fires that are happening in the middle of the night. They're happening in the middle of the night when the majority of people are sleeping. Their children are sleeping. And response is going to be different in the middle of the night to fires than they are in the middle of the day. I don't know. I just the whole thing about it being at night, and almost when you look at some of these fires, the time of the fires even is pretty suspect, because it's like between 2 and 3:30 in the morning that these fires are happening. So it's like, I don't know. It's there's just, like I said, there's just so many red flags that come up, and you're like, what in the world? And how can this all be so similar and yet not related, and yet nobody wants to talk about it? And
on like what Michelle said, I just wanted
people
to
getting
say, like,
death threats for talking about it.
Because like Michelle was saying, like maybe they didn't know that the girl slept upstairs. I feel like they didn't expect the mom slept downstairs, because she shouldn't have survived that fire. Like, she like definitely was very lucky, and they're like just what the fire findings were, like fire investigation showed. It was just
the damage to her. You know, she was life flighted to.
She had serious, like, she went into respiratory
She had serious
failure.
lung damage, respiratory damage to her lungs.
That's abnormal. That's abnormal. And like, if any like ISP is watching this and you do not know this, that is abnormal. I am telling you, that is abnormal.
It's highly abnormal, and probably has something to do with the accelerant that was used.
Exactly.
The 911 transcripts weren't released.
I'm just going to put it out there. If anyone has any information that they're afraid to share with with law enforcement, or they're afraid to share with people, if you send it, you can send it to us. We'll look at it, and we will definitely get it moved along to who we feel.
Well, I don't know. I can't get a reply from right.
I mean, we've been trying to to reach out to local law enforcement. We've also, Meow's tried reaching out to the FBI. She's tried reaching out.
They were so annoyed.
They were very annoyed with her when she called.
They were so annoyed.
So it's not that we have not tried to get this to the right people. I know that Allie has sent her stuff in, and we're hoping that gets somebody's eyes to moving and looking at this stuff.
The media needs to get on this. Like
so it's, we're just going to keep pushing and keep trying. So they didn't have to get in to commit arson, Indian Paintbrush. These fires were set in an area part of the home or whatever where they didn't need a key to get in to set these fires.
I don't know. Not that they didn't need a key, because it didn't work. The back door didn't work. But
the back door of the house didn't latch, so the door was left open. And also, what was the deal about the door having to be left open for the upstairs tenant? What was that about?
During the arson, like, that didn't need to be open. It was like wide open, like to the back door, which she had locked. She said, like, she had locked the night before, but it didn't really lock. Like, the lock was broken. So this person did, and which is ballsy. Yeah, I think like especially if you don't know the layout of the home, like you don't know what you're walking into. But that was really bad because that causes a fire to vent. So like that literally kills the people upstairs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So do you want me to go ahead and play the video now?
Sure. I think it started at 6:04 where I just wanted to show people what he was saying about what I was just saying.
Sorry. So sorry.
You're fine. Oh, can't hear it.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I have them in my ears. Never mind. I'm sorry, guys.
I would do that.
This time it's my fault. Hold on.
No, it happens to me too, Kristen. Like just before I joined, I had my computer defaulted to the audio, but then I have a microphone, so I had to remember to go and switch it. It's just too technical.
It's crazy because they always tell you with StreamYard if you have guests to put headphones in, because I can hear you guys so much better through my headphones than if I don't have headphones in. So I always do that, but usually they're hidden when I have my hair down. So
was a guest on the program and offered this pointed message about the ongoing investigation. One thing we do believe, and support that everyone hears this, is we don't believe the person who did this intended to kill those 4 little girls. And that's really important that the nation hears this, that the family hears this.
Okay.
So he basically said they do not believe that whoever did this or committed this arson did not intend on killing those 4 little girls. And Unsolved just told you that there's no way that was not intention. That's not the intention based upon the fact of how
also,
the fire
him saying that race wasn't
set.
Like absolutely they ruled it out so early on. And I was like, that's not a stupid question for them to. That was kind of rude that he responded like that, because obviously people are going to ask. It was like a whole family of 4 Black girls. Like, are you kidding me? Well, anyways, I think that would have been a natural thing to ask. Like, they also messed up. Like, there were multiple things at that point that had clearly they had messed up.
I mean, it was one of the first things that I thought of about Flora, just because I know the demographics of the area. And I know that who lives in the city and who doesn't. And then when you start listening,
I didn't, and that was scary. That was.
And then when you start listening to locals talking about the area and the mentality of the out and out racism that still exists in a lot of people and a lot of thought process in that area.
You got it though.
I mean, I'm just saying, you've got people talking about it and saying, you got to look at that. You have to question it. And what I thought was very compelling is a lot of the shop owners and the people that lived either next door or around, because you have to remember the Flora house sits on a corner that looks at basically downtown Flora. So there's businesses all around them because of one side of what that house faces is basically Main Street. And there was a lady that was interviewed that I played the other night. She has a screen printing business across the street. And she said, her heart broke for those little girls because they were always outside playing. They would always wave and, and say hello when you would go by. Everybody knew them, all the shop owners, all the people who had businesses, because they always saw them outside playing. Same with their next door neighbors or the neighbors that were just in and around them. They had nothing but good things to say about the girls.
Even the landlord couldn't say that. Like, they even said, like, she's nice. She was always super friendly. Like, they can't say a bad thing, but yet they also didn't say, I'm sorry your children died. Like, they did, like, literally.
The fact that the landlords could not speak to Galen that night and go up to her and say, anything. And then even later down the road, not a word, not one word about the fact that she lost 4 of her children in that horrific house fire. I mean, that to me is just beyond understanding. I mean, anybody with human compassion is going to reach out and say something. Not that
Right.
saying you're sorry is gonna help, but you that's the first thing that we want to do as human beings, is say we're sorry for someone's loss like that. It makes no sense. And I've
Yeah.
always said, the other thing, we talked about it when we were all on our Skype call, when we were talking about the fact that, you know, Josh gets a phone call at whatever time, 3 whatever, your house is on fire. And instead of turning around, hanging up the phone and dialing 911 to make sure that that call has actually been turned in to the people who can help, the firefighters, first responders. Oh no, he jumps out of bed and gets dressed and hightails his little self over there and stands across the street and watches. Like, what is the deal? I mean, that to me just, none
It's
of
not
that
good.
makes sense to me. I wish he would explain himself as to what he was thinking and why he did that. And again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not trying to say that he's guilty of anything here. I just think that the optics of how things were handled is just suspect. Totally
Yeah,
suspect.
I agree.
And
And yeah,
And with
sorry.
Carter, like I said, no, and like with Carter, I'm torn between these 2 cases with him, because when I look at him with Delphi, I just love him. I just
Mhm.
do. I mean, I think he shows the most compassion, and I believe him. I do. I trust him. I do. When it comes to Delphi, I have since day one. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't feel the same way I do. And that's fine. But boy, when you look at Flora and the fact that of what he said and how he implicated the family, knows something they're not sharing, just infuriated me and made me so angry when we started looking at things that we found about why that may be.
Right. And I
You
mean, I
know,
feel the
I
same
mean,
way. I feel like we're in a way kind of like being lied to here. And I don't want to
mhm.
sound bad by saying that, you guys. I love the police. They do a lot of good for all of our communities, and we really want to be able to trust them. Okay. I am usually 100% that way in my adoption of belief. But what bothers me about Carter with the Flora situation is that he's saying he doesn't believe anyone deliberately set fire to the house to kill those little girls. And then they turn around and they recognize it as arson. It's completely hypocritical. And in fact, I feel it's incredibly unprofessional and deceptive, because you have 13 people who died in Flora Bringhurst fires between 2003 and 2016. If you want to go to the next slide, I can show them what I mean by this. Slide number 9. And
If I could
so
get
we
my
had,
mouse to cooperate.
oh, I can't
Sorry.
help you there.
My
No
mouse
worries.
is not being very cooperative tonight, you guys. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you've been too busy using
I
it
guess.
too much, I guess.
I'm gonna have to yell at it. You bad mouse.
Yeah. So yeah, here we have 13 people that have died in Flora and Bringhurst fires, and this happened between 2003, 2016, and this is when one fire death was expected every 30 years. So when we look at Carter, what he's done for 5 years, in my opinion, is bury the fact that 9 other Flora Bringhurst fire deaths since 2003 have happened. You know, the 4 Flora girls, their case is tragic, but it only represents 25% overall of Flora Bringhurst fire deaths since 2003. And this is during a time span when no other deaths were expected. So 3 of the Flora Bringhurst fires killed 3 or more people at one time, potentially indicating that there were 3 mass murders, not just the one.
I hate to be like the person who's like, questioning them, but if they have not looked into their first responders, because like that is a thing that happens when it comes to fires, because they like, especially in small towns, and like if you talk to any firefighter, they know that this is like a situation, it's a problem where with firefighters who are young and they're like just want to be the hero, and they like really, I do think that that's I understand like the criticisms against that, but we have one individual who's responded to 6 of these deaths or something, at least. I don't, there might be more. And maybe 7. And so, yeah, I really actually, because it's like definitely the 2, actually it's already 7. So, no, 8. Yeah, 8. Sorry, 8 of the deaths. One guy who was the first responder, like confirmed for all of them. And like, I'm sorry, you have other people on this. And like, why is that happening?
Yeah.
Like, you should be looking into that. If you haven't, I hope you have. Like,
well, they need to be looking into the hero complex for sure, because there's definitely that. We could have that going on where they're setting fires and trying to be the hero and not being the hero in some of these cases, obviously. But or it could be just an arsonist that's within the fire department. Again, we talked about this the other night. This isn't like your normal city fire departments. These are volunteer firefighters. These are volunteer fire departments where these firefighters have day jobs. So, they do something different during the day, and then if there's a fire, then they have to go. But I don't know. It's just really strange. The whole dynamic of it is strange. Indian wants to know if we know who owned the property that the dentist office used. The dentist across the street that had the fire. If we know who owns that
Brian
property.
Wagner. Yeah, I'm not sure. Indian paintbrush, that's a great question. I'm gonna look into that for you. But I do know, his home was another suspicious fire-related death that occurred within a 450 feet diameter from Galen Rose's home, just a couple of blocks. There were several homes that actually caught on fire within the time frame that we're studying now, all within the same area. So I'll definitely look into that for you. Great question.
Michelle's got a really good point. She said it is possible Doug Carter could also be in a situation like that. ISP officer may have known too much and she was killed. This is so much bigger than him, and he could be scared for his family. And that's very true as well. There's a lot of things that go into this. We have found out going through this and finding this information. That's one reason why we've been so careful about the way we're releasing it, because Meow can tell you that there are people around this that are releasing information that have had death threats. So, I mean, it could be some crazy person on social media just being crazy, but it also could be somebody out there threatening us or them.
I don't even doing this. Like, they actually started covering it, giving it the attention it deserves. I'm out. That's all really. That's why I don't feel the need to put them in a great light, because come on guys, that's your job. You are supposed to release 911 calls. You are not supposed to steal from your own county. it's just like they're basic things, like things that you should be explaining. But like no
Exactly.
one is. No one's
And
allowed to ask questions.
you hit the nail right on the head, Meow, when you said that. There should be absolutely no reason that they are withholding a 911 call. There should be no reason for that. What could it possibly be? We've said that before. If it shows them in a bad light, so it shows them in a bad light. You know,
That's where you own up to your mistakes.
that's where
and
you
say,
stand up
"We
in
were
front of
wrong,"
the camera at the podium and say, we screwed up,
Right.
whatever.
And you
If
might
this
lose
is
your
about
job. But
if this is about the
the
fact
right
that
thing.
they completely botched the way they responded to this fire and those 4 little girls perished because they didn't get to them quickly enough, then they're covering themselves because they don't want a suit of some sort, or they may not want, they're worried about this. Optics is not what this is about. 4 little girls are gone. They will never grow up. Their mother doesn't get to hug and kiss them goodnight anymore. And this is ridiculous, to go to court and to spend all the money that this county spent to keep that 911 call from coming out. There's something there they don't want us to know.
And it's not easy for the mom to go to court. Like she's barely making it. Like it's not. She just wants answers. That she
Who wouldn't?
really needs them.
Who wouldn't when you have your children taken from you in such a brutal fashion overnight, you kiss them goodnight, whatever, put them to bed, and
but
the next thing you know,
out from that weren't out before. Like some things that are people need to be asking, oh, that's weird. Like people, I'm actually going to be releasing just the testimony itself, and I'm just like other people are speaking for it, and I don't need to show it in one specific way. I just read it, and you'll see that there's obviously some questions that you have to be asking here that are just that should be automatic. We shouldn't have to ask. I don't know.
I get you. I know exactly what you're trying to say, because it's you, like you said, you put them to bed and then the next thing you know, they're gone. And now it seems like here we are, it's going on 6 years in November.
You can't get the timeline right.
They don't have, it seems like they don't talk about it. I'm so tired of Indiana hiding behind the fact that we keep all of our cases close to the vest and we don't talk about them. I'm tired of that narrative.
I read the FBI file on this random serial killer they claim to have caught in the 1990s, and they were just trashing Indiana State Police.
Well, it's terrible. One. I mean, if you look at the burger, you can say what you want to about the murder sheet. I mean, everybody has an opinion about them, but they cover the Burger Chef murders, which I lived through. I remember them so well. I just do. They were horrific murders, and in Indiana, and the Indiana State Police botched that investigation badly. And here we are, all these years later, and it's still not solved. We have to look at why they're 48th in the country for their solvability rate for murder. I mean, their crime solvability is not good, and at some
they're
point,
really bad. Actually, they're lagging. That's
that's. I don't even know what happens. It's irony, really. It's just I wonder why it's so high, because clearly it's been 6 years almost, and nobody seems to want to do anything for.
And see, that's where I'm at with this. It's kind of like they hide behind this shield of, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to discuss that. This is an open investigation.
This is a danger,
which is all fine and good, but 6 years later, and you still don't want to talk, or you still don't want to talk to the family, even not even us, just the family, and give the family an update
on the electrical. That actually, there was no lights on in the home, so it's believed the power was cut. So if it doesn't have electrical source, well, this is talked about further in the testimony with the fire investigator, but they don't believe there was any electricity going to the home. So that's already rules that out. I'm curious if there was like an ignition to it. I don't know, like, or
An
wait for
ignition advice, or
it could be even like a cigarette. My dad was like explaining it to me. He used to do art, so I like that cheeky little. But he like said like it could be like a cigarette, it could be like a candle. Like those are things that are delayed ignition, sort of. I like things that like arsonists use a lot. If he wasn't actually there, he could have just actually been there. So I don't know what they use.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And go ahead, Allie, and finish up with what you were going to say with your last slide.
Sorry,
because I think I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Listening. There's a lot to say. I mean, it's all so overwhelming, but I have been trying to keep up with some of your questions in chat. I'm so sorry. It's hard, you know, when you're presenting data, especially like you're like, I have to make sure I get the numbers right. But Truth, Justice, I did see your question as to whether or not these statistics have been provided to ISP or really any other law enforcement faction, and yes, they have been provided to the FBI. No response. They've been provided from another creator who had to tell the ISP where my videos were, even though she sent them my channel URL. They weren't sure what videos they needed to watch, so she gave them the information and has heard nothing back after that point in time. I really hope they're watching. I'm hope that they're looking into every single one of us that's putting this forward. I have to hope that, you know, given what we know, I have to hope that maybe they just weren't aware, and maybe they're using the guise of COVID or whatever else that's happened within the last couple of years as an excuse. Which is inexcusable in my opinion, but not going to go down that rabbit hole. So the only other thing I was going to say, Kristen, on this particular slide is that, you know, I think it's important to really consider that the Delphi murders, okay, and this is where some people might kind of, like I was saying, disagree with my interpretation. But again, this is drawn based off of the data and results we are seeing in real time, the numbers. So the Delphi murders, based off of the data, appear to be strongly tied under, you know, potential happenstance, that there is a motivation for Delphi to, you know, the desire to conceal Flora and bring her 9 other fire deaths besides the 4 Flora girls. So what I'm trying to say here is the Delphi murders were motivated by the desire to conceal everything that's happening in Flora and Bringhurst with those 9 other fire deaths besides the 4 Flora girls. And why I say that is because the data clearly indicates that we are talking about a mass murdering psychopath, okay, whose preferred victims are children, and not only children, they're female children for the majority of instances, where you had 15 of the 19 victims being children, female children. So why anyone with these facts that we've discussed would think that Flora and Delphi are unrelated, it's unfathomable. I don't understand why people are so set to disconnect the two, knowing the information we know.
I think that there's so much to say about that, because we've talked so much over 5 years about this case, especially Delphi. We've talked about how there are people out there that just don't want these cases solved for some reason. And I still believe that. I think they're out on social media. I think they push all different kinds of crazy narratives to keep the water muddied and to keep people off the right track. I think they have people looking down all kinds of rabbit holes. And I definitely think they didn't want anybody to get wind of this and start bringing this data out. And if they did, I mean, it's not like you had to dig to find this data. I mean, it's out there. You just had to put it together. I mean, it's not like this data is hidden from these people who are professionals, or at least are supposed to be in their jobs. They should be the ones looking at this information.
They should be on this.
And the
like,
media should
be them too.
Yeah, no, the media should be as well. The media should be questioning all of this. They should be questioning why these cases aren't solved yet, why not just going along with, oh, law enforcement's going to do it one of these days. You know, there should be some hot pressure being applied on Flora, especially, as to what in the heck is going on in this county, because Carroll County is burning. And so are the 5 surrounding counties around it. And people are dying in these places. And we need to find out, you know, like how to, I don't know, go about finding common ground. I don't know if that's the right answer or the right word, to get people to understand that this is serious, and we're not just trying to blow smoke. You know, this is really serious stuff, and there are some players with a lot of clout in and around these cases. A lot of clout, lots and lots of money. You know, they have a lot of reason to obviously not want certain things out, because all of this hurts the area. Who wants to move their family to an area where there are children dying in house fires all the time? Doesn't make you feel very secure as a resident. So
you're right. And I mean, I definitely think that there is an element just within that area and the number of hate crimes being so prevalent that it could be very well likely that anyone within the law enforcement capacity, seeing what has happened to Stephanie Thompson and presumably Nate Miller, who was another Indiana trooper that ended up dying, apparently by suicide, given what we know about his death. That's another story. But anyways, I could see how these guys, including Carter, might be fearful for some sort of retaliation, you know, given the number of groups and affiliations that are centered around that area.
He also kind of references it, sort of, like in the speech that he gave in 2018? Yeah, there was like, he kind of references it saying like law enforcement is like everyone who risks their lives, and like, you know what I mean? He was like kind of made a tribute to them, I guess.
I think Truth Justice makes a wonderful point here. I mean, this to me is exactly where we should be with this, and what should have people raising their eyebrows, raising questions, wanting to know more. What are the odds for 2 murders in 3 months that killed 6 little girls in towns 10 miles apart with a total population around 5,000?
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually more than 6 little girls, because if you add the Rossville fire into it, there's 8. So, I mean, it's, and I believe you have to. I just do. I just think that there's, you know, I don't know. I still appreciate you guys. You know, you both are doing wonderful job on getting this information out. I always look forward to both of your videos. Meow, I love the stuff that you're doing on Reddit. I'm there every day. I always check a couple times a day to make sure what's going on over there, and keep it coming.
My fund, like, please, like, it's all been worked out, and we're going to like be sending the every like 1,000 raised. So
This
if we
is
can
the
get to
sad
1,000, we
part,
can-
guys, to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say it again because I said it the other night.
Stop
I'm
making
gonna-
fun of it.
I'm going to
proud of
refresh it. I'm just going to refresh it. But, you know, here we are. I don't know what day this was started, but we're at $260. We can definitely do better than that. You know, people, you know, try to dig into your heartstrings. And if you can only give $1, give $1.
And the
But-
family is so grateful. Like, they are like honestly, no one's done this. Like, it's been 5 years. No one's done this. And they've only made GoFundMes to defraud the family. Every time. They've done it multiple times. It's like absolutely, it's like unreal. It's completely objectionable.
And now,
like,
because that has happened to them, people see this GoFundMe and they don't believe it's real. So that's again why we're at only $260, and they're only trying to raise 20. And you guys have seen where the GoFundMes blow up on social media. I mean, you can say what you want to, but the pizza delivery guy that we were just talking about in Lafayette, he's got something like, what, guys, was it 200,000 already?
No, it's over 600,000 now.
Over 600,000.
It was almost 600,000 the last time I looked.
$600,000. I'm sorry, but to me that's sickening. I have my reasons for saying that. Trust me. I'm like, you guys are going to be shocked when you learn what you learn about that fire over time.
And people still are telling me things with the Flora fire that are like huge details that change, that are so significant. And like, there is nothing in me that like believes that this case, if you give it to the public to a degree, like when you have a case that's not being worked on, you should like provide information to the public, because you're not that smart. You're not smarter than every person who can put in input on this case. Like, Allie is literally, she probably wouldn't take a job to work as like a investigator on this, because she's probably like, that's out of her pay grade. Like, this is out of my pay grade. I'm not gonna do like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I feel so like, I definitely like, this isn't okay.
I get asked that all the time. In fact, one of my mods asked me that this morning, and wanted to know why I have such a passion for Delphi, and and Flora, and where do I get the energy to do 3 lives a week, plus all the research that I do on this case. And at first I thought, maybe they're questioning me. Maybe I'm doing too much, or maybe the optics doesn't look right or whatever. And he was like, no, absolutely not. He goes, I just want to commend you. I just don't know how you do it. And all I can say is, it's kind of like what Meow just said. I can't imagine not being this invested. I just feel it inside of me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, to try to bring justice to these families and to these girls. And now that everything has come out, that I've started to collaborate with these wonderful ladies here on the screen with me, I have found some of the most crazy and just stuff that can't be. We can't let it not be talked about. It's
bad. Yeah, no, like,
it's just bad. And there's somebody else out there that's going to end up dead, is my feeling. There's going to be, there's going to be other fires. And It's a lot. It's a lot. It definitely is a lot. There are times when we feel like we need to take a break. We have to walk away from it because
Yeah.
it's just emotionally so draining, physically as well as emotionally. And I commend anyone who has their heart in the right place, that's covering these cases with us, and that's bringing light to them, because I do see more and more people talking about Flora on YouTube, and that makes me happy because at least it's getting
Yeah.
some traction.
No, but like this is honestly more than like the family has even been afforded because everyone was so convinced that
You're right, little
yeah.
Pookie.
Sorry, I know.
No.
But like it I mean it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's just bad.
It
Like
is
when
a
you
lot.
realize it, it's just like I mean, it becomes like so it's hard for you to like
I
rationalize
still haven't
that
heard
people are
anything
like that.
back from Jim Irsay. I had people ask me about him yesterday in email. I still haven't heard anything. I promise if I hear anything from the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, I will definitely talk
Wait,
to you
what's the
guys.
thing with Indianapolis Colts?
He gave him and one of the players gave $225,000 to the Delphi Reward Fund. So I was trying to get him to match that for Flora.
I'm
And
curious because like he also, yeah, I don't know. They all got all the people who were at the fire got like Colts tickets to go
yeah,
see Colts. So like well, let's see if like they would are like come on. But
well,
like the firefighters, they just got it.
well, it wasn't even that. I mean, the landlord and his wife were at a Colts game the
Yeah.
night of the fire.
Like
So,
okay, seasons tickets.
but all I can say is I don't understand, you know, Flora happened before Delphi, and I just want him to see if he can find it in his heart to give to that fund as well. I think it will help. Um, I'm hoping that it would help to at least make a big news story and a big news blurb about Flora again, because trying to get them to just come out there and put it on the regional news, whatever, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, I know Perry Freeman from
Hopefully it's
Cop
not when my
Facts.
house burns
He
down.
went
So
to he went to Fox 59, and at least they did
no.
come out and do a story on it, I think, but it wasn't anything major like I was hoping it would be.
It's a
Um,
homicide. All four girls were ruled homicide like that week.
yeah.
There's also really no way because like they were ruled homicide that week, guys.
And see, we still don't have a determination in Stephanie's fire and Stephanie's case.
Oh, but they have the guards up. They put like literal gates up around that. And I
Yes,
was
they
like,
do.
okay. Way to be
And the
obvious. Maybe
ATF
they
is
didn't want the crime
involved.
scene page.
So that I know they think that this is not an accidental fire. I just know they do. But they're being really hush hush about hers. And I think it's probably because of her being a law enforcement officer. So I don't know, Jennifer, about the other fires and if there's rewards for those fires or not. I have not heard anything.
When I was researching for the prior video I did, Jen, there was a reward fund set up for the 3 little children from, I'm getting them all mixed up right now.
The 3 children
Kokomo?
from Ross. Oh, no, not from Rossville.
Kokomo.
From Kokomo.
Yeah, Gingrich. Gingrich is the last name. And what's really sad is when that video footage that I referenced, it was a media clip. When that clip was taken, the mother had only had like $3,025 in her GoFundMe. But the media source actually showed where the GoFundMe was located. So if you guys watch that video or the news story, you'll see where you can go to support some of the other victims. But to my knowledge, I don't think outside of what Meow has done for Flora and the existing one for Kokomo that any others exist.
Yeah, I don't think there are
Yeah.
either that I've heard of. But yeah, it's messed up. It's for sure.
Yeah, mine's
It's
the
definitely
official GoFundMe. We confirmed it. But it's not a good thing.
we just appreciate you and for you doing that and setting that up
Yeah.
and knowing that the family really supports what we're doing and they're appreciative of what we're doing makes me feel good, because at least I know the family knows that we have their best interest at heart in covering
And
this.
I'll like literally do like a thing with my sub where like I will match off funds for like the day. I will do that. Like I just really, really want, because I feel so bad. I feel like that was almost like taking that money away when this case was getting some attention and finally people recognized that the mom wasn't guilty. Like
it was
just
like
all,
a kick in the gut. I mean, really, it was. I couldn't believe when I saw that, and I was getting, my phone was blowing up, my email was blowing up. Kristen, you're not going to believe this. Go look at this. They're taking that money. And I was like, they can't take that money. What are you talking about? I couldn't believe
but that was
what
like
was
when we
happening.
started covering that.
I know.
And like I literally released a video that day that was like, it was satire, boys. Like, come on.
I know.
Like, it was 3
Yeah, I was
hours
going,
before, and
Kristen, I
felt-
think it's because I released my video. And I'm like, no, it's not.
I know,
There's
I
more
felt
to
really
it than your
bad.
video.
I cried that night. It was so sad.
I know. It's not your fault. So yeah, nobody is, I can guarantee you that is the truth for Meow. It is also the truth for Allie and for myself. Allie can tell you about how much she's made off of her cases, but we don't make money on these cases. And one of the things that I think is a misnomer.
I'm not even monetized.
I think what's funny though is I do monetize, but you can't monetize this genre. Advertisers don't want their ads on people who are talking about real life murder and dead children and
also, if you wanted to be monetized, you'd be covering Delphi.
So like, I mean, I'm serious. Even with Delphi, you try to monetize your videos and it comes back and tells you you're going to get very little because of ad quality. Yeah, the ads are not suitable for your genre. So there's a misnomer out there on YouTube that if you do monetize your channel, that you're making all this money. Well, maybe you are if you have 100,000 subscribers. I don't know about that. But when you're just a little postage stamp size that we are down here on this level, we're not. So I just want people to know. And I appreciate everyone who gives me donations, who helps to subsidize my time, the energy, my equipment, some of my subscriptions, like to hold on a second, I'm sorry, newspapers.com, some of the things that I use for research. It costs money to do that. You know, if you want to.
I pay way too much for background effects.
I was just gonna say. I mean, there's just a lot of things that we have to do, and it costs money to have a channel. It's just like, I don't want to compare myself to television because I'm not, but it's a low budget kind of television, so to speak, and it does cost money. So I just want people to know that, you know, none of us here are doing this to become rich and famous. That's not that is definitely
no,
does this look like a rich and famous type person to you? Come on, guys. No, really not gonna happen. But no, oh, John, thank you so much. So I speak up and John gives me $5. I love him. So John, you are such a nice guy. I so love you. But no, you guys are funny. We could sit here. I was gonna laugh. I know somebody's gonna yell at me for doing this, but Tech Death's not here tonight. He had a work party he had to go to, but you know, he was telling me that we all should start doing the lip gloss thing.
Oh,
yeah. Because there's a YouTuber out there where they do the whole lip gloss thing.
Oh no, they do the face. true crime and makeup or something. Makeup and true
No,
crime.
it's no,
True
it's
crime and makeup.
no, what's her name?
You're talking about
No, hang on a second. Sunny Justice and it's crime. It's a criming shame. There's 3 of them, and they all at the very beginning of their videos or their lives, they all get on and do the whole lip
Yeah.
gloss. And
That's
one of them is a guy. One of them is a guy, and he does it too.
I'll join in.
I love that. Okay.
I'm like, here, let's put on the lip gloss. But
Yeah.
I'm so not familiar with these YouTubers at all. I don't use them in my research or anything, but sorry.
You are
so fun to hear
you're
about
so
them.
missing.
They're
You're so missing out,
good.
Meow. I'm gonna get you in Truth Justice in the YouTube community yet, because Truth Justice is just as important.
I love him.
He's amazing.
I've tried. No,
he's amazing, and I just, I'm gonna end up getting him on my mod team yet. I'm gonna ask him soon.
He's my mod.
So
Yeah.
I want him to be a mod for me. Yeah.
Oh my God,
true. You.
So
really cheating, two-timing.
What's that?
So
He's
yeah.
two-timing. I didn't know he was modding.
Yeah.
I don't have mods on my channel. It's just my Reddit.
Oh, that's hilarious. Radar's in here saying that their lip gloss is bigger than Adam and Sunny's lip gloss. It's funny. That's hilarious.
That's so funny.
But yeah, it's just, yeah. We appreciate your support, Truth Justice. We really do.
Aww.
So yeah, we support we actually appreciate all of your support. Everybody who follows us and watches our content. And I appreciate you ladies being here tonight.
Really.
I really am glad that you were. We have to do this again because our, 3 heads are better than 1. I like putting all of our stuff together and our ideas and our insights, because I think that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is.
But I will say goodnight to you, and we will all talk again soon.
All right.
Good night.
Much love, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you guys for being here. They're wonderful. I love them. I can't say, like I said, I can't say enough about them. Wonderful women to work with. They're doing so much for the 2 cases that we're covering. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your weekend, and enjoy your family and friends, and do something nice for somebody. Pay it forward. And I will talk to you all on Tuesday night. Stay safe, and thank you for being here. Good night, everyone.